I'm Carl Anthony, Managing Editor for AutoVision News, and this is AutoSens Insights. We're pleased to welcome to the program today Blair LaCourt, who is the CEO of AEye Incorporated. And Blair, welcome to the program and good to see you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So Blair, let's start at the beginning. For our AutoSens viewers who are meeting you for the first time, tell us a little bit about AEye. Give us an overview of the company.
Sure. AEye is a robotic vision company. It was started in 2013 by Louis Desson, who was the technical founder, had a storied career in NASA, Lockheed, Northrop Grumman. I had met Louis while we did the force deployment in Afghanistan and Iraq in an earlier company, a DoD company that I had. And he struck me as one of the pioneers in system-based robotic vision. He, in fact, was on the team that invented the sniper pod for all the NATO jets and did all the ground targeting for special forces. I was very impressed with him, and I decided to invest in the company. AEye has really taken a very different approach because of Louis' background, whereas many people responded to the bell for LiDAR systems by creating passive systems, which is what the auto industry was asking for in 2013. Louis actually came at it from a more active approach, given his background in building systems, where LiDAR was part of our system, but was not the entire system.
Right. So, Blair, there's some things there that I want to come back to. Let's just start with the most recent developments. You were in the news for a partnership with Continental, and that relationship is ongoing and developing. So tell us a little bit about the Continental Partnership and what's happening there.
Sure. We were very proud to have been chosen by Continental, as you know from interviewing people before. The auto industry is one of the most technically savvy industries in the world, and as a regulated industry, they also are very careful. So Continental, as one of the top 3 largest tier 1s in the world, did a lot of analysis before they came to the conclusion that we would be a partner for their next generation of long-range LiDAR systems. It's a multifaceted partnership. It's a minority investment. We're non-exclusive. But that said, they immediately were able to deploy 300 people because they've been doing LiDAR for a long time. And they have a short-range LiDAR. So that was a massive addition to our brain trust. And they've actually committed to many, many commercial initiatives together. So it's not just a technical partnership. It's also a go-to-market partnership where our goal is to increase the adoption of LiDAR. You've seen the curve in cameras, you've seen the curve in radar. Both of those curves were really driven by volume. When the cost came down, you were able to integrate it faster. So we're taking an approach to actually increase the slope of the curve with LiDAR to get it in faster by not only having a technical solution that's less expensive, but make it easier for OEMs to integrate it through tier 1s.
Sure. So that makes sense, Blair. And let's expand on your go-to-market strategy a little bit. So on one hand, we have a very exciting time for AEye as you're developing these robust autonomous driving systems. And some LiDAR companies we know sell directly to the automotive OEMs. But again, you've taken a different approach, as is evidenced by this relationship with Continental. So let's dive a little more into your go-to-market strategy. What are the reasons behind that? What are the advantages behind that? Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. And part of it is, developed in context of where you came from and what you've been successful at before. I've been fortunate enough to be a CEO in 2 regulated industries before, both the defense industry, the aerospace industry. And so one of the things you do when you first jump in is you actually do an analysis of how things go to market. Our conclusion was that if we wanted to reduce the cost faster, in fact, our cost has come down 90% in 2 years. We believe it will come down another 90% in the next 2 years with tier 1's help. We decided that we would not go to market directly in what I'll call traditional automotive. Many people who are listening to this understand exactly what that is. Inline integrated ADAS systems, where it's a multi-year process to integrate it into the car. It's a 7 to 10 year contract. You have 10-year warranty and liability, making the decision for an OEM a 25-year decision on a partnership. we decided right out of the bat we would not be manufacturing for that market, that we would find partners that were the best in the world at doing that, and that we would actually develop a new business model that supported that go-to-market strategy, at least for the traditional. Now, we go direct and we work with systems integrators in mobility markets and shuttles, and a lot of the other markets we go to, rail and trucking. But in the integrated inline system for ADAS, our job is to actually be a partner, not to be the tip of the spear. That happens through tier ones. Probably the most fulfilling proof of that is that we now have 7 tier ones that are invested in us, and we're in negotiations with 5 more. Because when you find something that makes sense, where your partners, my dad would always say, look, it isn't a partnership unless you know how the other person makes money over time. Both companies need to make money over time. So I think we found a model that supports the OEMs. It gets them LiDAR technology faster, and it gets it integrated in with technology they're already buying from tier ones. It allows the tier ones a software definable system to make their own. And we've actually developed a very sophisticated tier 2 supply chain, and we've licensed for free the design elements that make all of the components plug and play. That does 2 things. One is it allows all tier ones to use the same supply chain, reducing costs. The second is it allows tier ones to innovate much, much faster, knowing that the plug and play capability allows them to do a better laser or a better receiver and actually just drop it right back into the same LiDAR powered robotic vision market.
Right. So Blair, this might be a good transition for my next question, but when you go to the AEye website, the first thing you see is IDAR. So let's talk about the IDAR. Let's talk about the IDAR platform. Let's talk about how it's designed, its uniqueness, its business model. What are your thoughts on that? Tell us a little bit about the IDAR platform.
Well, it's actually funny. That's a great question, and I would answer it in 2 ways. The IDAR platform was named IDAR in both form and in function, right? We didn't want to actually focus on LiDAR particularly. We have PhDs in computer vision, in radar, in LiDAR, and system design. And so when we looked at this problem, again, we looked at it as a system problem where I don't need to just detect something. I need to actually be able to detect, acquire, classify, and give actionable information to make a decision. So IDAR stands for intelligent detection and ranging versus, that it's a laser. Now, we believe that the LiDAR system is imperative because if you take a look at biomimicry or even the 60 years of research we've done in automated targeting systems in the military, you need a deterministic sensor. And today, the 2D sensors with cameras and radar are getting better. We're looking at event cameras, we're looking at high definition radar, but none of them are actually deterministic like LiDAR, which is also better than a human who does 3D in depth and distance with mathematical formulas. So when Apple says they're adding in a LiDAR system or the newest rocket that just launched from Elon Musk uses a LiDAR system, there's a reason they're doing that, which is it absolutely makes us better than human vision. So as we actually looked at IDAR, we said to ourselves, if we're going to add in LiDAR into a system, we need that system to be configurable so that just like a human eye, you could foveate and you could actually change the way you look at things depending on what you were looking at, what was the weather like and what wasn't it. So the IDAR system itself is an architecture that allows you to customize the hardware modules to get the best out of them possible. One proof point for that would be in the last 2 years, we've only launched product actually in the last 3 months, but we had a development platform for the past 18 months. In the past 2 years, we've actually upgraded our hardware by plug and play modules 4 times, and we've upgraded the software 10 times. That's what you get when you get a software definable, software driven hardware system. So again, we had a different technology, and therefore we also took a different approach on how to go to market, not just through partners, but how we customize per market and per customer. So think of IDAR as the ability to actually say, hey, I'm in the rail market now. I want to see long distances on the rails, and I want to be able to trigger a platform when it comes up. Very, very different than what you would do for a robo-taxi driving in the city.
Okay, so we have this go-to-market strategy. You've given an excellent overview on IDAR. So with those 2 things in mind now, what are the key applications, Blair, that you're seeing right now for LiDAR and LiDAR systems? And then I would just tag on to that a second part to this question is then how would you break down AEye's focus in these different areas, just given all the unique things you've said about your go-to-market strategy, the unique design of IDAR. Just give me your thoughts there. Curious. Yeah.
Well, look, there's going to be a lot of different approaches to the market, and our approach, I think, is complementary to others. There's not always going to be one solution. There's not always going to be one go-to-market. We made a very distinct decision on our go-to-market strategy. One was we would never manufacture because we didn't believe that was going to be our core competency. And we believe that the automotive supply chain is extremely mature and that we would need to build modular plug and play component designs that someone else could manufacture. The second thing we decided was that an integrated inline ADAS type systems, which were closed systems. And what I mean by that, in the military, you can have systems that have a very defined usage, and you can have an open system that you never know what you're going to throw at it. A safety system in a car where you're doing highway control is closed because you're using it for a very specific thing. A robo-taxi where you never know where it's going to go and what it's going to see may be more of an open loop problem. We decided that in traditional automotive that we would actually go through partners and license into the ADAS market. And so no manufacturing and licensing. So the tip of our spear is traditional automotive, which is why you see the number of partnerships that we have with tier ones. That to us drives the cost down of the components. It also drives up the innovation, which allows us now to take those components, use our software configurable system, and now go from market to market with systems integrators or direct to actually provide solutions. So while we don't think one size fits all, we do think we can tailor very, very quickly our product to get you the best. And in studies we've done so far, by tailoring it, which takes us about a day, we get 4 to 5 times of performance. Let me give you an example of that. Sure. When you go from the trucking market to the car, to the automotive market, the truck has the sensors usually very high, and they also want to see very long distances because of stopping speeds. So you need to be able to see the road surface out at 400 meters is very, very important. Whereas cars, robo-taxis driving in the city, 200 meters is probably enough. The bigger issue is lateral entry. 90% of the issues that robo-taxis are going to have is things coming in from the side. Things like FMCW or radar only get radial velocity. So what you want in city is you want something with a higher refresh rate, just like what humans do. We go from 27 hertz to 80 hertz when we find danger or we find areas of danger. When we go up to an intersection, we look left and we look right because we know those are where cars enter. So what we're doing is actually programming that kind of what we'll call quick twitch, edge of the network, visual cortex type of intelligence, where you don't need to go to a neural network. When you touch a stove and it's hot, before you even think about it, you pull back. When you're trained to drive, you actually look at intersections differently. For instance, we entered the trucking market in the last 3 months with this product, and we've already got 5 people who actually have already bought product and are moving towards POCs. That to us is a validation of the fact that there will be passive sensors, that one size will be put on anything, but more likely there'll be active and intelligent sensors depending on the marketplace.
Sure. So Blair, just given everything we've talked about, I really would be curious to hear your thoughts. Where do you think the industry is headed in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? I mean, what is from your perspective, what would you say is a future outlook? Where is all this going?
Look, I give you a little bit of my bias. And again, I qualify it in all humbleness to say that my opinion is just one opinion. But what I have seen in the past, I've been in 8 different industries in my career, is that the patterns hold. And what I will tell you is that LiDAR will be in everything because we're moving from internet and telecommunications made communication free. Edge computing and cell phones and smartphones made distributed processing free. Business analysis and AI made turning data into information free. The next natural jump in the world is to take free communication, free distributed power, and free edge processing of information and actually start to make assets smarter. the number one place where assets needs to be smarter, where they're not as good as a human in making decisions, is when they're moving, they're tracking something that's moving, like in security, or they're moving and tracking things which are moving. That's why automotive is really the tip of the spear, because we're not in consumer integrated systems. Not only is the car moving at high speeds, but the other cars are moving at high speeds, and you have other things in the scene that are entering laterally. So my opinion is, look, LiDAR is in the iPhone because it's tracking things that are moving when you're taking pictures of it, right? It's in, it was in the space shuttle. I'm an investor in Virgin Galactic. It's in Virgin Galactic because we need to be able to track things, and everything in between. We'll find a way to add this sensor in. So my opinion is that the easiest way to actually make this available in a broader context is for the low-end systems, consumer, like the iPhone and the iPad, to bring down component costs, as well as the number one volume driver in B2B for durable assets is automotive. And the number one driver inside automotive is inline integrated, where you can get hundreds of thousands of cars a year. So my opinion is the first tip of the spear. Today, 90% of LiDAR is implemented in industrial. Over the next, by 2025, you're going to start to see the rollout of cars with LiDAR systems. I think you'll see that will become a big driver of cost reduction. And then that will actually bring out more of the industrial and the robo-taxi types of implementations. So I do think somewhere between 25 and 30, you're going to see both the convergence of consumer uses of LiDAR, as well as B2B uses of LiDAR in integrated ADAS systems. And that's going to change everything. And we're going to look back and say that was a turning point. It was a new platform on how to make assets smarter. LiDAR just happened to be the last component in robotic vision. I don't want to say it's not important. It's extremely important in the mix. But LiDAR combined with a camera and radar, they all complement each other.
Of course. So, Blair, the way I'm understanding this and everything you've talked about, and thank you for all of the depth, truly, it's fantastic. But you mentioned moving towards basically more intelligent autonomous driving systems or more intelligent ADAS systems. You described it as quick twitch. So if we accomplish this, it stands to reason, and maybe I'm incorrect in this, but it stands to reason that future cars would be safer. Is that the ultimate goal here?
Look, I spent a lot of time right after 9/11, in government programs to try to figure out how to make the supply chain safer. How do we stop terrorists from bringing things in and containerized, vehicles that are jumping off ships? We came to one stark conclusion, was that if you try to do compliance-based safety, people will, in a natural order, do the minimum they have to do to meet the compliance for that. Okay, and everyone in the industry will do exactly the minimum they need to do. So if we want to make cars safer, we also have to make it profitable to make them safer. Now, NHTSA and NCAP things that you're being judged on help a little bit, but the best way to make cars safer is also be able to add performance features into them that allow the safety systems to power performance systems so that the car makers can offer new features, and therefore they're investing not only in safety, but they're getting the double investment to make the cars better. I also think there's, again, one of the trends that I saw over time is that we like to believe in all or nothing. Open loop, we're going to solve every problem down to the last percentage point. If our cars over the next 10 years become autonomous 90% of the time, and we drive them 10% of the time, that is still autonomy. There will be situations when full autonomy makes absolute sense. There's going to be situations when if we, for 10% of the cost, can make the car autonomous 90% of the time, then that actually may be for a certain segment of the marketplace a much better thing to do. And I actually look at the investment in robo-taxis over the past 8 years as actually driving this new resurgence towards ADAS, because if it wasn't for all the companies investing in full open loop autonomy, you probably wouldn't have moved the industry to the point where we can now take this stuff and put it into a car where it may not be fully autonomous. So I think it's a virtuous circle. And I think that circle comes into play somewhere between 25 and 30. There's a lot of people who say, well, robo-taxis won't happen until 2030. I think you're going to be surprised once the ADAS systems come out. how quickly robo-taxis are then enabled to come out after that.
Of course, and Blair, with this stuff, I could talk to you. I could talk to you for the rest of the day here, but I just want to make sure that our AutoSens viewers know how to contact you. So let's say that they're watching this interview and they'd like to learn more. They'd like to learn more about IDAR, the IDAR platform. How do our viewers go about getting in touch with you?
Sure. Well, I mean, the best thing to do would be to go to our website, AEye.ai, because if you talk to me, you're probably going to end up getting, 9/10 philosophy and 10% actually usable information.
Blair, in the last few minutes that we have, is there anything you'd like to add, or is there anything you'd like to summarize one more time for our AutoSens viewers?
We're in a very interesting time, and I think sometimes you don't look back until it's time to look back. And so if you look at what the internet and telecom did in the 90s, if you take a look at what the BlackBerry in 99 and the iPhone in 2007 did for a lot of different type of innovation well beyond what they were doing. If you take a look at the impact of AI in business analytics today, you don't see a lot of these proprietary databases anymore because you don't need them, because you can collect information and do it. I think you will see that this is the age of smart machines. And the first thing that smart machines need to do is to be able to move or track movement. And this platform will go on for a while. I use the example sometimes, and I use it with my kids the other day, is if you take a look at Netscape, they gave you access to information. Yahoo organized it after the fact, which is really the first set of LiDAR systems. Google allowed you to capture information intelligently and build business models on top of it. And I think that's where we're going in the next couple of years.
Blair, all of this has been fantastic. And from all of us here at AutoSens, we want to wish you the best of luck going forward. And I'll look forward to getting caught up with you in person at a future conference here one day down the road.
Carl, I'm looking forward to actually being there in person. Take care.
For more great content from AutoSens, visit our hub or our YouTube channel. Just search AutoSens.